Hello, we're the Nostalgia Critics.
Oh
You
no!
remember it,
Where'd that
so
come
you don't
from, man?
have to. I don't know. I start with a big hello. I don't want to be like, "What is up, gamers?" You know, what else are we doing? But in many ways, critiquing the nostalgia of film past. If anyways, it's a title. It's more accurate for us than it is for Doug Walker.
Oh, Kobe. Oh
What?
my God, man.
What?
I'm loving that what you got going on right now, dude. Now
See that pour?
that
That's
is
good
a
looking
picture
pour.
perfect pint. Guys, I am not drinking beer this week or anything else except I did yesterday.
Sixers. Hey, that was Sixers Knicks, man.
It
You had to
was.
tie
It
one
was.
off.
I definitely had to. But nonetheless, I'm upset. I really wish I could be having one with you guys. But I gotta
Well,
wait.
we should raise a glass because we're having a celebration this episode.
Hyatt, something I've always
Grab
been
a
curious
drink. Grab
about.
a glass.
Don't say it, Jack.
Something
you can't in accordance to this film.
Yeah, you're right.
Something I'm curious about is that in most episodes, Hyatt, you're having a little sip of something, but I never know what it is. Is it like whiskey? Are you drinking bourbon?
Hyatt
This
is
is
a
a-
huge whiskey guy, man.
This is this is out of my infinity bottle. So this is just a bottle that's the combination of the ends of other bottles from work.
Whoa.
That is almost empty. I've just been drinking. I don't have like a big infinity bottle. It's like a bar thing.
That's
I don't
surprising.
Have a
I know what an
specifically full one.
infinity.
Okay, cool.
You're talking to a former bartender.
I'm
big guy.
talking to the audience as well.
That's surprising to me, Hyatt, that you indulge in such behavior because I would figure that you're kind of a whiskey purist. You wouldn't want to create
Well, no,
this
mostly.
cocktail.
So it's funny. I thought about opening up. Well, I'll save this for a different episode. But no, it's mostly that I don't want to actually drink any of the stuff that I have here during these.
Oh, okay. That makes
I
sense.
don't. I don't.
Right.
Dub
Are
these
you-
the
Light going.
Are you a whiskey purist? Have you become a whiskey
No,
guy
not
since the last
really.
time
I
we
don't.
hung out?
I just work at a.
Right.
I work at one of the 100
Speakeasy.
best whiskey bars in America,
Oh, I didn't know that.
as
That's
as
right.
named by.
I'm gonna
Whiskey
have to-
Advocate.
I'm gonna have to drive on down. I'm gonna have to come on through.
Yeah, you should.
I'm gonna have to buy a car.
No, it's one of those things that just via my job I've had the benefit of learning about, which is kind of cool.
So, guys,
Okay,
This is
perfect
a
night.
podcast.
Perfect night. One sec, Jack. Perfect
Go ahead.
night. I buy a car. I rent a car. I drive through to Pittsburgh, pick you up. You and me hang out, go see Guided by Voices on the 27th of April.
already
the next
doing
day,
that, so,
I know you are. The next day, we drive to Lorraine, right?
right?
Go to one of the 100 best whiskey bars in America, catch a showing of Aggro Drift because it's showing in Cleveland and not in Toronto.
Oh, fuck. When is that, Hyatt? Holy shit.
Well, that's
I think it's like
10th.
May
Okay.
10th.
Yes, right. All right. That scared me a little bit, but, for all the listeners out there, Hyatt and I seeing Aggro Drift May 10th.
One
Kobe,
of the 20
not
top
seeing it.
spots to see.
It's
Aggro
not
Drift in America.
in Toronto. I feel like it's like in Des Moines, but it's not in
I
Toronto.
know. It's at the Cinematheque in Cleveland. I mean, I guess that makes sense, like, it would be there, but it's just, like, such an anonymous place, the Cleveland Cinematheque. It's got, like, hard wooden seats,
They did Memorial
I'm expecting-
Fish Run, too.
I'm expecting a 5 from Hyatt and like a 3.5 or 4 from Jack.
Could be.
Based off
I would
both
be
of your
sur-
relationships.
I would be
with
surprised
Miami
if
Vice.
I would be surprised if I loved Aggro Drift that much personally.
I would as well.
But I hope I do. But I'm going in being like, this is going to be some... Like, I feel like the thing that it's most akin to in his filmography is, like, Trash Humpers, Where it's
Right.
like, this is just, like, a weird video project more than anything else. But
Do you
I'm very
think it's
excited.
going to be some Zoomer shit? And if it is, do you think that is a bad thing?
I think it's going to be faux Zoomer shit, which I think is interesting.
Well,
It's
right,
going to
sure.
be,
Yeah.
like, weird pseudo Zoomer shit.
Yeah,
Which is wherein lies the possible. I mean, that and just his interest in the aesthetic, right? Like, I mean, I don't.
Yeah.
I mean,
I feel
truly, I
like-
don't know what to expect.
It feels like this, like everything he's been saying about this movie and in general recently, and like all of his weird stunts and the edgelord thing, like that. It feels it has to be like tongue in cheek, like I don't know,
Yeah,
or at
he's
least
in a weird
self-aware.
spot. I mean, so like, there's like reports that he's like hanging out with Jared Kushner a lot and stuff. So it's like he's just in a weird place, right? I mean,
That's
last I
interesting.
saw, he's like, I might not ever make a real movie ever again, except there's a script Terrence Malick wrote that he wants me to direct that I would do. Like, he's saying stuff like that. And-
Please,
and
let's
so,
have
like,
it.
You know,
Terry.
we'll
Yeah.
see. So I don't know where he's at, but I'm always interested in where he's at. I mean, I think
Right.
he's always kind of been either in like a dark truth way or in like a positive way, like had a correct pulse on the finger of the filmmaking world,
Right.
which is one of his great attributes.
Right.
Which is why he made a Dogma film with Thomas, with Andrew Dodd Mantle, you know, and
I mean, I was just gonna say, I think I'm gonna watch. You got the way you guys are talking. You've got me all excited. I might do Julian Donkey Boy tonight.
yeah, I mean, it's a
haven't seen
great
it.
one to do. I mean, it's like very, in some ways, very similar to the Celebration, the film we're about to talk about. And,
Before we
like,
do that,
Exactly.
could I hop in real quick? I just wanted to ask a question. How do you guys feel about winning the Academy Award for last week's best podcast? You guys
we
happy
did it,
about
man.
that?
Yeah, we're excited.
I
Well-
mean, it was hard won. It was hard won.
I just wanted to add, that I bet you're glad I didn't make a podcast last week.
Wow, come on, man. No, I was just gonna say, I think you just got to get a little bit of the silly juice in me and start talking about Charlie Kaufman. Just
Damn,
rev
get
it up,
my
you know,
silly juice in me.
You know, rev me up, and hey,
Jack, who's a
I'll be
filmmaker that
ready.
irritates you? And then
I
next
was-
week
I
when
was-
you're drinking again, we can really get you going.
I was thinking about this recently, but I don't know. My thing lately is I just love movies. I love all of them. I don't dislike any of them. They're all awesome.
Weak.
This was cemented for me on the Rush episode. Every movie is good.
Right.
Yeah, that's true. Well, we don't reference the Rush episode, or else people might want to actually hear it. You know.
There's a
Yeah,
couple
it's
films
true.
that have come out this year that you could go see, right? Maybe that would change
My
your
thing
mind
is,
as to
yeah,
what a bad movie
that's
is.
true. Is I just don't see shit that
That's
I
the
don't
thing.
like.
I see a theatrically released movie every week now, and
Yeah.
it's like brutal. I just saw Abigail. Abigail's brutal.
Really?
Hyatt, I saw that movie. I mean, granted, like this is your review, and then I went and checked the runtime. That shit's like 2 hours long.
It doesn't make any sense, man.
Why?
It's so crazy. No, yeah, no. Literally, it's funny that like I try not to do this, but that was one where halfway through I thought of the Letterboxd review because I was so bored. And I'm like, well, that's my review.
That's what you gotta
Which is crazy that you could watch Satan Tango twice during the runtime of this movie. Which is what it felt like. I was like, this is insane. When I realized that we were only 50 minutes into the movie and that there was an hour 5 left, I was like, how? And then there's stuff that happens near the end of the movie where I was like, why is this in the movie? It's so bad. Those guys are. This was a letterbox. Hey, maybe let me take a sip and then I'll say what I'm about to say. Because this was the other letterbox review I thought of that I didn't do.
There we go.
So, for context, these guys did the Scream reboots. They did Ready or Not, and they did this. And I was like, man, these guys are low-key, like, enemies of art. Like, these are just, like, artless, like, horrible products that are, like, designed to make people, like them, to, like, it's just supposed to light up a thing in your brain, but there's just, like, nothing. All of them. Like, and I was even, like, less harsh on the Scream reboots recently, and in retrospect, I'm like, those movies are awful. Like, those are terrible movies.
Wait, weren't those the guys who made who made the Blair Witch remake?
That's
Adam Wingard.
Adam Wingard.
Oh,
Who was just
so
like,
that's
Yeah.
it
slightly
was
more
literally
interesting, I
like
guess.
just finally at the end of the yarn of goodwill he has from The Guest with Me with Godzilla
Yeah.
versus
Yeah.
Kong 2.
Yeah.
where I was
Dude,
just
yeah,
like,
we're
why
at
is there
Adam
80
Wingard's
synth
late
songs?
stage
Yeah,
already.
No, I don't know what stage we're in with Adam Wingard. I hope we're in Adam Wingard's late stage. as in, I
Yeah,
hope,
exactly.
You know, ugh. No,
right.
Again, he still has goodwill for me. But and part of it is, so Dan Stevens is in Abigail and in that movie, and he's like good in both those movies, and he's good in we got to
Yeah.
get Dan Stevens in better stuff, and I think his name is holding him back.
Is that the guy from The Guest?
That's the guy from The Guest.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
and
don't know
he's
if I've seen him in
constantly
anything
good
else.
in like garbage. Like
He's just
like,
a
bottom
great
of the
and
barrel
like
shit.
it's a word that gets thrown around I think with a little bit too much aplomb, but he's a really just exciting character actor where whenever I'm going into a movie, I very rarely know that he's in it. When he shows up, I get excited to see him, and he's always doing something different, right? Like he's not like he's not like a guy with a shtick. Like every single time I see him, he's doing something like completely different from what I saw him do previously.
Yeah,
I
he
love
plays
him.
like a what is he Australian in Godzilla vs Kong? British? He plays like a veterinarian for King Kong, who's like a
Yeah.
kind of like 80s guy. And then in Abigail, he's like a Long Island cop, you know.
Right,
And,
Hi,
right,
did
right.
you
he's good in
see
both.
the new Godzilla Kong without seeing the first?
Yeah,
Okay.
I just saw. I was like,
Wait, hi,
Here's
hi.
the
That's
thing.
why you didn't like it because you were
because I
confused.
didn't
True,
know. I
yeah,
felt
yeah.
my mic.
Is there still like, are they still like conspiracy, like, are they QAnon
Yes,
guys?
kind
still?
of. Yeah. Part of
Okay.
the shocking thing about this one for me is when we went in, we bought our tickets. It was me, Diane, and Wyatt. We went, and we bought our tickets, and the theater was like. Super
I bet
full.
Wyatt
We
loved
were
it.
to sit in the third row, and
Wyatt
then
did not like There's no.
and we were like, it was so full, and there was a bunch of kids there because it was spring break. And I didn't
Right.
realize. I don't think what people realize that movie played like a family movie. Like people, like there was a
Right.
ton of kids there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, this is like, and then immediately I was like, oh, this is like a kids movie. Like it kind of put me in a certain mindset that both helped my opinion of the movie and hurt it because I was watching it
Right,
with a bunch
right.
of children. You know.
Was that the best, like, performing COVID movie? The original Godzilla Kong? That,
No,
like,
it was probably
No.
Tenet.
I think Tenet did better.
Well,
Yeah, I
Tenet-
think Godzilla's Kong. Didn't that go like straight? I feel like I watched that on Prime.
Yeah, but it was like a
week after it
cultural
came out.
It
event.
was day
though.
and day. Was it?
Yeah, dude. Yes. I don't know like what that
This
translates
escapes
to in
me.
terms of like the movie's like, you know, how much money it made, but
A cultural
Uh,
event.
I don't know if it was a cultural event.
I don't think it was a
think
cultural
kind
event.
of was because
I think
everyone,
like
everyone
I mean,
was
like
just inside
Tiger
and-
King was
Yeah,
a
Well,
cultural
yeah,
event.
but I don't know the way that movie dropped. I mean, maybe it's just me because I watched that movie at
See, that's
midnight
the
when
thing.
it
I
dropped.
didn't watch that movie, so I'm just
No,
like,
I know,
okay, it
but,
just
like-
came out and no one cared, and then it.
I think you guys might be slightly wrong, but I also am probably slightly wrong.
So then
and
who's
with that,
more slightly right?
Let's get moving on.
Guys, welcome to Godzilla Cast. Welcome to Godzilla by Concast.
No, it's the sweet life of Jack and Kobe.
Welcome
Right.
to the Wind Guardians.
Drop the theme music.
Oh, I like that one. Because of Wingard, like because of Wind Disc.
You're
Wind
talking
Dixie.
over the theme right now. We're gonna sit in silence
This is playing.
until it plays.
All right, today we're talking about the celebration.
Oh, he got the Criterion.
He's him.
And then we're
He
gonna
might just
talk.
be him.
We're gonna talk late style. We're gonna talk DV. We're gonna kind of set parameters for some of the terms and conditions of the phrases we use a lot on the podcast that we kind of throw around willy nilly without ever really putting any serious thought into. And then we're going to. I have a long list of movies, and we're gonna start figuring out where we're at with this late style thing.
I have some
'cause-
movies
think-
also.
Yeah, I have some movies. So I think also just to preface this is I think what's so interesting about a phrase like late style is that it's pretty indefinable in like horror movie. That is a genre with tropes and conventions. New Hollywood likewise has tropes and conventions.
Well, and it's like a time period.
Exactly. Like late style, it's very woolly. And so I think for me in particular, what I'm looking forward to, but also for the audience, what they should know is I doubt we will come to a stable definition of the phrase late style. But talking this through should elucidate it to the audience as well as elucidate to one another what it is that we mean when we personally say the phrase late style.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of a thing is basically coming up with a rough working definition of what we mean when we're invoking it, or kind of
Right.
how it relates to the types of movies we talk about, or why it's interesting for us to maybe want to classify certain things under this phrase compared to the other things we would like putting a certain movie in a group with other more clearly late style movies kind of illuminates a certain perspective through which to view that. But first, do we want to talk about the celebration a little bit?
Yeah.
Yup. I
Perhaps
do.
an example of early style, which is something I wanted to talk about a little bit. It's Thomas Vinterberg's
Right.
first
Likewise
film.
exciting.
I believe it is Dogma 01, one
Yep.
of 35. And so it is
All
the
right,
first
define
film.
Dogma. Define Dogma for us.
he's
Right now?
he's gonna read
Alright.
it.
Oh, wait, does it come with the manifesto? Oh,
Do you
super
want me to
exciting.
Okay, so I'm not going to do this because we can refer to this, because if I did start doing it. So basically, I mean, what you need to know is that Dogma 95 is a collective of film directors founded in Copenhagen in spring 1995. It has the express goal of countering certain tendencies. This is written like it's anti-Semitic or something, because it says certain tendencies in quotes in the cinema today.
In
Dogma
three
95 is a
parentheses.
rescue action. In 1960, enough was enough. The movie was dead and called for resurrection. The goal was correct, but the means were not. The new wave proved to be a ripple that washed ashore and turned into muck. Slogans of individualism and freedom created works for a while, but no changes. Dogma, and there's a lot of stuff like that. We'll go into that a little bit more.
Right.
But for our purposes, in terms of digital video, Dogma, it's being the first Dogma 95 movie. All the Dogma 95 movies are handheld specifically on DV, mini DV, on the tapes. This is kind of something that I think is worth going into for the definitions. Is like there's digital and there's digital video, and all the Dogma 95 movies are digital video, so they're shot on the DV format, which is a like cassette tape. It's like literally, but so it's not being on film. It's not being put on film. I think it's being transferred at the last minute, to project. But it's like a true like digital cassette tape. The mini DV is like the handheld home camcorders. So there were like more professional DV. There were like mini DV. So like rules of, in terms of stuff that we've talked about before, rules of the celebration are like someone has to be holding the camera at all times. It can't be like on a tripod. It has to be like always no props, no outside props, no non-diegetic music, things like that. Kind of really affect like the style of it, and are all especially reflected in the DV. So I feel like I'm already getting sidetracked. We will start with Kobe real quick, I think, because I've seen the celebration before.
Right.
It's a favorite of mine. Jack watched it before. We did Rush for Anthony Dodd Mantle context, and Kobe just watched it for the first time. So we'll go in reverse chronological order.
I just want to say, Jack, that's fun. I didn't know you watched it before Rush, which will probably end up being end up being our like great lost episode, but
Our not great lost episode.
are not great. Yeah, no, I mean it's lost because it's not very good. But that's funny to go from the celebration to Rush. Yeah, so my impression of the celebration initially I was like, I thought this is extremely good, right? Like this is a very good movie. I was more taken more than anything else with the screenwriting and the like performances, like those classical tenets of narrative filmmaking, which Dogma 95 as a movement is trying to amplify, right? Like the whole point of taking this sort of strip back approach is because they really, like Lars von Trier, Thomas Vinterberg, like what they really want to do is amplify like what they see as the core essentials of narrative filmmaking, which have been, obviated by the glossy Hollywood machine, etc. And I walked away like, wow, oh my God, so dark, so funny, X, Y, Z. But in the week since I've seen it, and I've seen a decent amount of films since then. I really haven't been able to get it out of my head at all, and I think the reason why I haven't been able to get it out of my head is are for the formal aesthetic reasons that Hyatt outlined via or vis-a-vis the Dogma 95 manifesto. There's just this quality to mini DV where, I mean, obviously like people shoot home movies on it, but as a result, like it always looks like a home movie. And so even on professional DV, and I think Hyatt's got the Miami Vice poster in the background, but like Miami Vice, like that's part of the like aesthetic mystique of that film almost to me is that like it's people walking around saying the most absurd shit you've ever heard in your entire life, but it always kind of looks like it was filmed on a home movie. And I presume that's because it's one of those professional DV cameras that Hyatt adumbrated earlier. But the celebration, for the people who haven't seen it, it's a movie where a family, it's kind of honestly like Succession-esque. Imagine that, like a family gets
Quickly, I
together
will say,
at a
spoiler alert for the celebration. I will
Right.
like put up a time code or something, because this is actually one that, like, if you're thinking about watching this movie, it's probably worth going in not knowing what's about to happen.
Right. Well, then I'll keep it vague. But or at least I'll keep it as vague as long as we can keep it vague. But essentially, this family,
Also, real quick, didn't the cast of Succession like actually watch this movie or something?
Yeah, no, they did have the cast of Succession watch this movie, which
Oh,
I
sweet,
think is one
sweet.
of the smartest things Adam McKay has done in his life.
Yeah, so the film's about a family that's not estranged, but definitely strained, I would say. All come to the family estate / hotel for the patriarch's birthday. It's their father's birthday. He runs this hotel, and he's loaded. And halfway through dinner, like a good 45 minutes pass. It's not a long movie. It's maybe an hour 45. A good 45 minutes pass. You just sort of get a sense for the family and how they are with one another. And then when people are going through and giving toasts, a certain member of the family stands up and delivers a bombshell revelation via a toast. And then the rest of the movie, and I think this is so crucial to the Dogma 95 thing, is that it's this really and why it's so important or cool as the first Dogma piece is that the form really amplifies the content in a really magical, touching, beautiful way, where after delivering this bombshell revelation, everybody at the party just sort of proceeds as if like nothing just happened and as if everything's okay, and then they go to the next person to stand up and give a toast, and they go to the next person to stand up and give a toast. And obviously in the background there's some sort of turgid drama occurring, but I think like what's so special about the use of mini DV in this case, what's so special about the use of the Dogma 95 thing, is that it really just sort of feels like it's like this sick and twisted home movie, right? Like it really feels as if it's one of those parties where like how at weddings sometimes they put like the disposable Kodak cameras around the tables. It feels as if, to some extent, because it's all handheld too, it feels as if people just are like, some photography crew just left mini DV cameras around the tables, and so people are walking around and filming, relations between friends, between family as they get together to celebrate this guy's birthday. But they're sort of going through and reproducing the gestures of being familial and being kind and comfortable with one another, when in reality, like that something kind of big, something kind of traumatic just was just revealed. I don't know. I'm sort of droning, but I was really taken with it, and I really think that it would be an aesthetic feat in and of itself if it wasn't about what it's about. But again, what's so special about like its aesthetic trick or gimmick? Well, it's not a gimmick, but like what's so special about its aesthetic form is that it really serves both a narrative, thematic, symbolic, metaphorical function. Like it's really really powerful, I think.
I think its greatest asset, and this is the obvious one, and I think like why a lot of people will gravitate towards DV is that it feels like hyper real. Like it feels like, I mean, to put it bluntly, it feels like you're there. It feels like a home movie of this family.
Right, but what's so I think interesting and lovely about DV is that it simultaneously feels hyper real and doesn't feel real at all, right? Like it feels hyper real because it's so different from
That's kind of what
our
I mean
impression.
by hyper real.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So it's just so like different from what we perceive Hollywood to be, but like it still has like it's like that classic Brian Eno quote that everybody always throws around about what's bad about a medium will eventually become like its signifying traits. Do you guys know what I'm talking about?
No, never heard that.
There's this, I don't know if I should Google it right now, but there's this Brian Eno quote where he's talking about like what like the flaws of a medium, and his big example is like vinyl. He's like the pops and cracks of a vinyl. These are technically flaws, but now 20 years later, we remember these as like the signifying traits. And I think that's what's so interesting about DV is that it's like an evasion from the Hollywood machine. By being an evasion of Hollywood formalism, it sort of gets to be like, we're more real. But at the same time, it has its own flaws. It has its own tics, traits, and tropes. And so at the same, like, things feel more real and also more artificial at the same time. That's why Inland Empire is so interesting. Hyatt, you look like you really want to say something.
So we got to talk about, like, Marshall McLuhan. So, you know, it's the medium is the message. And I think it is the best thing about a lot of the mini DV films is that they are, and it's funny because a lot of the Dogma 95 people, Harmony, Lars, kind of reject the notion that they're using DV for the aesthetic, which kind of is, in a way, the meta version of that Brian Eno quote, where it's like, perhaps in many ways they don't even realize what they're doing, which is the funniest thing. I think, like, Lynch even would go as far to be like, shooting on digital is just cheap and easy, which is why I like it.
100%.
In a way that kind of strangely doesn't show an awareness for what makes it so haunting when he does it.
Fincher and Soderbergh too.
It's the same thing with. I think it's the same thing with Fincherberg here to some extent, but I think there is a level of like this story, the way it's acted, the way it's told is probably the most thorough use of the Dogma 95 format. It's very fitting that it was the first one. So there's a documentary on here that is them doing a Dogma 95 like pseudo jury thing. Because when you made a Dogma 95 movie, no Dogma 95 movie actually fits every key of the manifesto. It's like almost actually impossible to make a movie that would fit every that would actually fit all the rules of Dogma. And so what they do is they have like a jury where you send it in and then they decide if it's Dogma or not. And then at the beginning of the Dogma movie, there's the Dogma certificate.
Is like, that just them? Is it?
I believe so. I think it's the four of them. There's four guys. It's I'll find who it is. It's the guy who made Mifune and it's the guy who made one other movie. The other two are much older.
It's Alejandro Inarritu.
It's not Inarritu.
Alejandro Inarritu, Sean Levy, Mark Mylod.
Antoine
Adam
Fuqua.
Antoine Fuqua.
No, but so like Julian Donkey Boy, you know, that movie has tons of non-diegetic music, like constantly playing through the movie, you know. And like, but like part of it is that movie's so good that they're probably like, well, we have to make this Dogma because it's really good, you know.
Yeah.
And
Harmony was like, well, I'm not doing this shit, man.
Like really like the like you know, I kind of think of the Idiots, the Celebration, and Julian Donkey Boy as kind of being like the three Dogma 95 movies that like really broke through, you know. But I think it's so like one of the things about Dogmas is they won't use and this is kind of an example of how the whole thing makes the movie better. They won't layer audio from a different scene over people. So there's no reaction shots. So what that means is, and we'll get into it, when they're doing the toast, every single time it cuts to a different person, it's the actor doing the entire monologue with the camera on that person, and then they're just cutting in the reaction shots. So he films the toast 17 times with the camera on each person, and then they're just cutting between them because they're like not allowed to like play the audio over just them doing it. So he's just doing it over and over and over and over and over again, so they can get everyone's reaction. Which is like one of those examples of a way in which the limits that they're placing on them, like truly probably one of the things that like the moment that Dogma actually like becomes a crowning artistic achievement is like the limitations that they put on themselves worked and they did it. Like you know, they designed a situation in which the thing was so perfect for the form. And you know, I can talk like I think they do so much with the DV where people in the scene are holding it when they're dancing. They're doing so much with the DV and just, but like, you know, and I've talked about this every time, DV just as a thing, and I get that it's hard to do because the performances have to be tuned in such a specific way. But it's like tape. Every shot in the celebration looks like it'd be hanging in a museum. They look like paintings. The artifacts drain things. They make things so real. They make things so unreal. They evoke so much. But it does feel like I don't think you could, like, this movie convinced me that you probably couldn't make a movie about the subject matter and have it affect me so much without it being Mini DB, because seeing him perform it in this way that feels so like the veneer of Hollywood has been removed from you, and you're sitting and just watching someone bear this all in, like, not in on a movie set seemingly, is like crazy. You know, I mean, it just like completely breaks
it reminds me. It's like in Prince of Darkness, how the signals beamed from another world are always played through, like that CRT TV. Like, what's so special about watching this movie is that it's so honest and so raw, and like what's so interesting too is like the 17 takes thing that you just referenced. Like, there's such like a formal honesty there too, that it almost just makes, like, you know, the quote unquote realness and the quote unquote truth of the content so much stronger. And honesty, truth, rawness, like, these are all words that I really, really hesitate to throw around because they're not formally represented in any place. But
Julian Donkey Boy kind of goes further, because Julian Donkey Boy is kind of constantly prodding you with these things, where it's like, this kind of works because to us these are all unknown actors, you know, unknown Danish actors. It's our first introduction to all of them, and like everything feels. I mean, the thing that I think impresses me about the direction on the celebration is that the performances are big. The performances are not small, subtle performances. The performances are big. Thomas Bo Larsen as the brother is giving like a huge performance.
Massive.
Right.
And so it's like,
dude,
it's like,
good.
He's so good. And it's like they're calibrating it in such an insane way that is like the opposite of what you would think to do. But Julian Donkey Boy is kind of constantly adding these. I mean, like, his grandpa's Werner Herzog, like the patriarch of the family is just Werner Herzog, speaking like Werner Herzog. Like, he's not like doing anything else, you know. And so he's like, you know, it's kind of funny. This came up somehow last week at Kobe. Maybe it didn't make the episode. Where I was talking about how describing something as a fairy tale almost always means it's going to be bad. But Julian Donkey Boy is another one of those exceptions where I would describe that movie as feeling like a fairy tale, but it's like good. And I think that's another one where it's like it's going further into like the hyper real that we're talking about, where it's like the reality and unreality combining, whereas like the celebration is kind of just, it is doing that, but more often, or at least in its most intimate moments, it's kind of going for the real, you know, in a way that's thrilling.
Right. You're talking about Suspiria. That's what you were talking about.
Yeah.
Like there's a shot in this movie that like made me like. So whenever I watch movies and I'm just, like, stricken with emotion, at, you know, for whatever reason, like when I watch Creed and I cry 18 times per you know, minute.
Every time Stallone says a word.
Exactly, yeah. But no, like I you know, it's hard to describe the feeling that feels so overpowering and almost like scary for a moment. And like the one that instantly got me in this was the shot where it's like some kind of camera movement that's like a maybe like this, like an
they're going down on the bed.
Yeah, they're going down on the bed, and you see the camera in the mirror, and like that was like seeing the camera is like so shocking, almost like it's almost frightening, because like you know, somehow, even though, you know, it's the hyper real thing, like it's seeing the camera reminds you you're watching a movie. I mean, it's like scary.
Well, what's so interesting about that is that just sort of I'm piggybacking off this is it's scary, you're right, but what's interesting too is there's all these sorts of crazy camera movements in the whole thing. Like there's like a scene where a car drives in and like the camera just like just does this crazy arc. There's all sorts of scenes
I'm
from
sure
like
that you guys
there's
aren't
all
really
sorts of
able to
scenes.
discern this movement Kobe's
I
doing.
know.
'cause
Yeah,
he's
well,
made
Kobe's
missiles.
Kobe actually shot his video today on the same cameras they shot the celebration on.
Sorry,
There's all
what were you
sorts of scenes. There's all sorts of scenes from like the top of the stairs and sort of in between like the panels of staircase
Yeah.
rails and everything. But what's so interesting too is that somebody in their families died. The sisters died, and so it's almost as if like I don't want to say like it's from the perspective of a ghost because that's a little bit corny, but it is as if like the camera is this this sort of like this free form haunted thing, or not even this haunted thing, this haunting thing, right? Like, I mean, this movie feels like I'm seeing something that I shouldn't be allowed to see, which is one of the worst, like one of the most tropey things you can say about something that's shot lo-fi. But it really does. Like, it really feels as if the presence of the ghost sort of informs the camera move as well as the camera style for the most part.
No, I think that's an amazing take, Kobe. Like, especially is because one of the things about seeing a camera is that it's unnatural or supernatural.
Right. I mean, hyper real. Like when you think about hyper, like what that means is like kind of one
Too
like
much.
removed from, right?
Right. Yeah.
Like one level above being real.
Like Uncanny Valley. Yeah.
Right.
Lars von Trier gets really mad because Winterberg has that shot that's on like the little elevator thing that goes through the house, and he's like, "You basically put it on a tripod."
What? It's not on a tripod.
No, literally the well, because he's like you're basically being cute by working around
'Cause
our rules.
Although, is
Yeah.
one of the rules not someone has to be holding the
I
camera at
think
all
there's
times?
like a work. I think someone's like, I'll look at it, but like it's funny because when you see them debate it, like that's how they're just talking about it to some
Right,
extent.
yeah.
Like they're literally like arguing over whose work is the most dogma, and they just keep being like, the camera must be handheld, any movement or immovably tempered. So I think their workaround is like the guy's like holding it on the
Okay.
thing.
Yeah.
But like
Yeah.
they like debate that for a while. Like,
Dude,
and, like they're being like assholes about it, which is so like counter
But
to what
what's-
the movement is. It's just so funny,
Is Lars von
right,
Trier
right.
CinemaSins? Is he?
Lars von
is that
Trier
the
is, like-
original CinemaSins?
It's funny. Lars von Trier is literally acting exactly how you would assume Lars von Trier would act in this conversation, where he's like playing devil's advocate and like purposefully like poking people and stuff. It's
Right,
like I'm
right.
like, why are you playing your own character? Why are you flanderizing yourself in this documentary? It's very entertaining. It's a very good piece.
Were you gonna say something, Kobe? Sorry, I kind of cut you off.
No, I was gonna ask because I don't think I've ever seen a Dogma film before this one, and so I was going to ask
You're cutting out for a second.
you two who I met, and in particular Hyatt, who are more versed. Oh,
Uh-oh.
Yeah,
And
we'll
he's
wait.
How's this?
frozen.
am I back?
Oh, you're back,
Wait,
maybe?
Catch up. Can you talk, Kobe? You're back, I think.
Yeah, I'm here.
Yep,
And
I
I'm
got you.
back. So I was just curious. You guys have probably seen more Dogma, Hyatt in particular. I was going to ask if this is the most Dogma film that you've seen,
Well, no,
but then I feel like
mean,
I remember
part of it-
earlier you said
I've
you
only
had.
seen two. Yeah,
This and the wait. I thought
I've
you
only
said.
seen this
Did
in
you not
Jewel
reference
Donkey
the
Boy.
Idiots
I haven't seen it.
earlier?
It's hard to
Okay.
find. No, that's been on my list for a long time. Part of it is like the list of Dogma movies is short and often like not even the director's most like famed movie.
Right.
It's kind of a weird movement in that like a lot of things to do with Von Trier and these and even Vinterberg to some extent. I do wonder if it wasn't like, thought of partially as like a publicity stunt kind of, it is like a weird marketing tool.
For sure.
I think they
It's
did
gimmicky.
believe in
Yeah.
it, but there is like so like the first wave of Dogma films is The Celebration, The Idiots, Mifune, The King is Alive, and then Julian Donkey Boy.
Is
And it's-
Mifune
right.
about Toshiro Mifune?
I think I don't know for sure. And that's Soren Craig Jacobson, and The King is Alive is Christian Levering. And those are the two other guys who are like the four founders of Dogma. then Julian Donkey Boy, obviously, and then I believe Susanna Bier makes a Dogma film, and she's found some success. She made like the original version of Brothers, and like a couple other things that crossed over into the West. But like,
Right.
it's
Brothers,
not like
the Kitano movie.
no Brothers, plural. The
Oh.
Tobey Maguire, Jake Gyllenhaal cuck
The
drama.
Tobey Maguire, Jake
Ah,
Gyllenhaal.
yes.
The cuckploitation film. It's got a little bit of juice. Movie's got a little bit of juice.
That one.
It's got some juice.
The Gyllenhaal
Toby?
Toby one, yeah, that movie is awesome.
Okay.
I mean, I don't know if it's good, but it's like crazy.
Doesn't matter.
Do we have anything else on the celebration? I mean, we did a pretty good chunk.
Yes.
Yeah. Let's
Well,
go.
like-
Two. I think I have two things on the celebration. The first of which is, I mean, this is more of a comment than anything else. With regards to the suggestion that it was probably a publicity stunt, I think like something else to keep in mind for sure is that for as much as there's shit talking Hollywood, like this is the '90s, right? Like this is the renaissance of American independent cinema, and I think that like, I mean, in my opinion, like I don't think there's like they definitely see this as a way to not capitalize. That feels like a bit of a crude word, but to further recognize and exploit these desires probably
sure.
of people to see
I think,
to see gritty independent cinema.
Publicity stunt is harsh, but at the same and I don't even necessarily mean
Right,
it in a
I don't
bad
know what to
way.
call
Like
it.
I don't necessarily, but it's like I do think it's important to be like, well, the three people perhaps most associated with it are Von Trier, Harmony Korine, and
Right.
Winterberg, like
Right.
guys who are
Right.
kind of like this, So it's like,
Yeah.
that does kind of paint it, I think, a little bit too. No, I mean, I do think the movement's genuine, and I think obviously some
sure.
of two of my favorite movies ever came out of this. So it's like it's not like
Right.
but I do think it is kind of like again, it's like it's like. I mean, it's like the 5 obstructions, right? It's like a challenge that is almost meant to be, no movie actually follows all the rules, And I mean, like,
Right. What are the? Never mind.
Yeah, I'll
I was
I'll
going to ask
go
what the
through
5
them real quick.
obstructions were.
Oh, that's that Lars von Trier movie where he makes his mentor remake that movie 5 times, and each time there's like a different set of rules that he has to do it
Right.
under that like become
Right.
increasingly like. So this is shooting must be done on location. Props and sets must not be brought in. So you're supposed to just find a place and only use things that are already there. The sound must
Yeah.
never be produced apart from the images or vice versa. So the sound may not be included unless it occurs when the scene is being shot, or where the scene is being shot. Excuse me. Camera must be handheld. The film must be in color. Special lighting is not acceptable. If there's too low lighting for exposure, scene must be cut, or a single lamp may be allowed to be attached to the camera. Optical work and filters are forbidden. The film may not contain superficial action, murders, weapons, etc. must not occur. So basically, like, you can't do anything that you can't do to the actors. Temporal and geographical alienation are forbidden. That is to say, the film takes place here and now.
Doesn't someone get punched? Does
They probably.
Is that a real punch?
I'm guessing. Yeah.
Beast. That was Thomas Bell Larson, right? Who gets punched?
Genre movies are not acceptable. The film format must be Academy 35mm. The director must not be credited.
Well, what's so interesting too about that is the first two things I want to jump on are the lighting and the temporal and geographical alienation part, because one of the most moving scenes in the entire film is obviously when he goes to sleep and has the dream and sees his sister, right? And they play with that lighting rule. They play with that lighting rule in such a profound way in that scene, because she's lit by this very, like, she's like holding a lighter beneath her, and she's lit in this way that's so fragile, right? And so because of how DV picks up on light, I guess, like the image just sort of cuts in and out and in and out, and the whole thing feels so delicate, and it's lovely. But then that also to some extent represents temporal geographical alienation, although does it? Because it kind of technically occurs here and now, right? And the now being the hotel, the here being the hotel, the now being the time of the dream.
And that's kind of.
But
the
again,
whole
I
thing.
don't want to poke flaws in the thing. I think that's probably a little dull.
Well, and again, that's kind of the whole thing is like, you know, they're always being cheeky about the rules, right? I mean, I think,
Right,
I mean,
right,
Julian
right.
Julian Donkey Boy is literally like a film by Harmony Korine, and he just says that, you know, I mean, it's
Yeah.
almost blatant disregard for wanting to follow the dogma rules. It's like that's the one you can just not do if you choose to, you know.
Right.
So it's like, but like I almost think that's what makes it work, because it's like
Right.
like clearly, obviously, some of these moments in these movies wouldn't be in these movies if they had followed the rules to a T. You know, it's like
Yeah.
it's the understanding that this is not like a completely rigid thing, which is funny because it's completely written as if it is, but the ability to interpret it in an article that you wrote and reinterpret it for your own needs kind of shows a level of ingenuity that like would be better than them just doing it and then not including that scene, for example, because it breaks one of
Right,
the
right.
rules.
I mean, it's called Dogma, right? Which is like such an ironic, like that's clearly, you know, kind of
Yeah,
a joke, right? And especially because these are filmmakers who have their entire careers predicated themselves on not going or like not acting in accord with the zeitgeist, not acting in accord with formal dogma. So then to come up with a set of rules and call them dogma basically goes like, all right, break them as much as you want. They're malleable, but you know at the same time we're gonna have a fun discussion about this. I do have just one question for you guys before we move on to the glossary, and forgive me because I feel like we've probably taken a long time on this already,
No,
but I was so curious. I was reading and like it looks like the last Dogma film came out in like 07 or 08, and I wonder if you guys see a future in which independent cinema sort of doesn't stake out a return to Dogma insofar as it's probably more expensive to shoot on mini DV than it is to shoot on an iPhone, for instance. But like, this is such an exciting movement, and people always bemoan sort of the death of independent cinema for good reason, I think. But like, I can't help but wonder if in the next half decade, like, do you guys think we'll find a bunch of young filmmakers will arise acting according to a certain set or a similar set of rules, except
I think
with the main stipulation is
I
iPhone instead of.
I think a few things killed Dogma. Like, I think there's a couple. I almost think the accessibility killed Dogma in that, like, right, mumblecore movies probably mostly fit Dogma. But, you know,
Right.
it's like Dogma doesn't happen anymore because the jury doesn't exist anymore and no one's pronouncing these films Dogma. Because there's not really they're not really elevated in a way, because they're not necessarily like counterculture in an artistic way always. I think mumblecore really did do a damage on it. I think there's a chance
Yeah,
it'll
I
be
didn't
a
even think
long
about that.
time until we come back to a fully lo-fi indie look because of that.
Can you guys explain to me what mumblecore is? I've heard the term a lot, and I've never been able to glean really what it is.
Mumblecore is basically like this, except it's also like we're only going to kind of write a script and it's going to be really loose and we're going to basically play ourselves and the movie's extremely low stakes and nothing happens. So it's kind of like this, but without like you know the negative version of mumblecore, and this will actually transfer us very well into the glossary episode. You know, people think it comes across as like lazy. It's kind of like this without the work put in. There's not like a bunch of professional actors.
Interesting.
There's not like a script that is.
Yeah.
It's like Joe Swanberg, Greta Gerwig, the Duplass's.
Duplass.
You know, kind of come out of this are like the people most associated. Noah Baumbach to some extent, but even like you're thinking like sub Baumbach. You know, like a Noah Baumbach
Sure,
movie
sure.
is much more polished than a mumblecore movie. You know.
Right, and also you like I would assume is the like defining Gerwig mumblecore movie, which is Francis Ha. Right?
See, Francis Ha is not mumblecore.
That's not
Francis
mumblecore.
Ha is too polished.
Oh,
Yeah.
so not Greta Gerwig directed films.
Well, if we're counting Hannah Takes the Stairs, yes. But
Okay, I don't know what that is. Even.
that's her first movie.
Gotcha.
Was that mumblecore?
That we pretend.
I've never heard of
yes, yeah.
Right.
But like that's like the whole, like all that, you know, Brooklyn, like tiny furniture, even like
Right.
all that stuff.
The Purple
this is
Chair,
not-
That's a big mumblecore. That's very boring. Jack, they're really boring movies. They are movies about like.
I'll defend some of them probably, but yes.
Like
I
we're
mean,
not
I
talking Simon Ling shit.
No,
here, right?
no.
Like,
I mean, it looks like a
No.
YouTube video.
No. Yes.
interesting. Okay.
It's
And
all
it's like Greta
handheld.
Gerwig, like in a
You
bathtub,
really-
drinking a bottle of wine
Yeah.
or something.
right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
In, like,
you
her
really,
apartment.
really get the sense that like, rather, because I mean, most of the times they don't have scripts, and a lot of times you really get the sense that they cut and then they go, okay, now you do this, but say it like in this way. Okay, go. Like,
Gotcha.
Yeah,
And I am not thoroughly anti this, but it has a very bad stigma around it right now, and it would make it tough. Like again, you would have to come through with a like fully realized production with like actors, and like it'd have to not come across as like I probably couldn't do this because people would be like, oh, it's just mumblecore, you know.
Sure.
Like or like I mean I could I that wouldn't stop me from doing it, but like, you know, it would have that oeuvre of mumblecore because it's like, well, it's like people in their 20s recording with bad equipment, just kind of movies
Right.
that are like low stakes, you know.
right.
So this will, unless Kobe, did you have anything else to say about the celebration?
No, I would love to take a break and go to the bathroom though before we move on to
Cool, yeah.
glossary.
Let's do that. I'll grab some water real quick.
Sweet.
I'm just gonna keep recording
I'm
on
gonna eat some
everyone
chips.
because my batteries are going good. So
Sound good. Why didn't you wait for us to clap before you told me all that crazy information?
well, we don't have to clap. I kept recording the whole way through.
Oh, I did the whole thing. Oh my
you?
god, we
I
got the,
just told the
we
whole
got the live
story
reaction.
while you guys were gone.
Okay,
That's gonna be
welcome
this- you're gonna have
back.
to all right. Fine.
That's all ending up on the cutting room floor.
No, it's not.
Oh, you want to the episode, Jack?
Yeah, I do.
Wait, holy smokes! I just got some crazy information.
Tell me.
Kylie Jenner rumored pregnant with Timothy Chalamet's baby. Travis Scott comments, "Bruh."
Yes,
Alright.
man.
And welcome back.
Believe it, bro.
And welcome back. Now the episode has resumed. And we're here to talk about words. You know? That's exciting. People keep rolling the tape, you know? No, we're here to talk about late style.
Okay.
What were you about to say, Kobe?
I said I got a word for you, bruh.
Oh, no. No,
That's not a
What
word.
does that convey? What does
Is that in
convey?
a Webster's dictionary?
And they pull
I
out a
think
dictionary
not.
from like 1984.
I was listening to an NBA podcast today, and at one point, a guy goes, "I got to tell you, there's too many Jalen's in the league right now." And I was just laughing thinking like yeah, he should have been like, "We need more Kirks," right?
Yeah, that's
the thing
that's
is,
a
well,
funny
'cause
I was-
part of it is we're at a cultural moment where when you say the word Kirk, we all know who you're talking about. You know,
That's true.
Right.
His cousin.
it's cousins, and you know we're picturing him with the chains.
Of course.
With the ice. Isn't it funny
He went
how
from-
he would like cosplay as a black person for the amusement
I
of
was
his
just
friends?
I was just gonna say he went from redskins to blackface.
Oh, oh, I like that. Yeah,
Yes,
no,
man.
and then like, you know, well, I like to imagine all the Vikings players were kind of in a haze, and then when they started losing that year, they're like, yeah, and then we like put all of our chains on him, and he was dancing around. That was weird, you know. Okay, so let's talk late style. Kobe's reading a book on late style. Kobe, hold up the book.
Oh, it was an EPUB. I read it on my computer.
Oh, okay.
Wow.
But we've been
I can't
talking
do
a lot-
that crap. I have to read it in my fucking hands.
See, I
was
I
alright.
wanna read this book. I'm wondering if maybe reading on the phone isn't for me, because part of it is I kind of just wake up and I use my phone anyways, and I'm like, well, I might as well be reading a book,
Right.
you know?
Are there
I
rules?
I do
for
not
reading
read on the
book?
phone, but I read
Like
on
Dogma?
reading on the laptop is fine.
What, you got something against reading on the phone?
One more time. Hi, what'd you say?
Do you have something against reading on the phone?
I'm against reading on the phone.
What do you think about
For the same
movies
reason-
on the phone?
Only if it's Inland Empire or The Social Network or some
like-
other or
kind of a
fucking
weird
Once
one.
Upon a Time in Hollywood. Some of that fucking crap.
I watched Stargate on my phone when I stayed overnight at LaGuardia, and that was pretty dope. That was kind of a lifesaver.
I like a movie on the phone. And
Yeah,
I
yeah,
have,
s-
check this out. iPhone, no, don't look at my back screen.
I'm gonna say
iPhone
hey,
Mini, 12 Mini.
Interesting.
Team bigger than an iPhone. This one at least.
Okay.
Uh,
Okay. I'm gonna say something. Hey, watching Stargate at the airport. Yeah, more like maybe don't oversleep and miss your plane once you find out which Stargate it's gonna be at.
Okay.
Right, guys?
Wyatt
Well,
fell
he got
asleep
your
and
ass.
insists that he didn't. I'm like, Wyatt, I literally watched you fall asleep.
Wasn't he,
Wyatt's
like,
I didn't fall
wasted?
asleep. Yeah, he wasn't wasted. I mean, he was pretty drunk. But, yeah, no. Well, because Noah bought tickets to a different flight because he didn't realize that, like, he was going to be at a completely different gate. Because he was literally, like, basically in a different building entirely. Our driver's like, all right, this is where you are. And then I'm like, oh, God, there's no way Noah makes this flight. And then,
Yeah.
I was with Wyatt, and so I'm like watching Stargate. I'm like watching Wyatt, who is asleep on his luggage on the ground, and I'm like texting Noah, being like, "Are you still awake?" Like being like, "Bro, you can't," because Noah's flight was earlier than ours, so I had to keep being like, I was just like, "You getting on? Like, what's going on?" You know. And
Was this the
Oh,
last
was
time you were
Noah
in New York?
also
Was this
drunk?
recent?
this was October, yeah.
Oktoberfest. That's why they were so drunk.
Oh,
No, because they hit a cocktail bar before they wanted to get one more cocktail bar in.
that's a classic.
And I was like
That-
in the
that-
car
that's a
realizing
classic
how
I
drunk
haven't really
Wyatt was
played.
in real time.
Yeah, yeah. That's a classic. I have an early flight in the morning thing to do.
Yeah, except because we were like, so I was originally gonna try to see Evil Does Not Exist, which was at 8 that night, but it would have been a pain in the ass to get over there anyways.
Right.
So I still haven't seen it.
But now maybe we'll see it together.
True. And
I'm a Gucci gang.
and then so
Gucci gang,
we
Gucci
were
gang,
just
Gucci
gonna
gang.
stay over. Like our flight was like 8 a.m. and we just didn't get a hotel room for that night, and we just stayed at LaGuardia all night.
Hell.
Um,
Hell.
All right,
it
guys.
was kind of a
so,
W. It was kind of fun for me.
Okay, I lied. I just thought about it for a second. W.
Dub. That's a dub. All right.
I
love
love
the
hanging out
Stargate.
with you
So, guys.
I love
is-
hanging with you guys and Wyatt and Noah overnight. Actually, at the airport.
Yeah, man. Oh wait, not me.
Tie one off. I just said you. I said.
Oh, me?
With you guys, with you guys, Wyatt and Noah. I always do that.
Oh, you would love that.
Yeah, I would love
Yeah, me
that.
too. It'd be nice. So,
we should-
is
yeah.
Free Guy late style?
No.
No.
Okay. That was a
No.
joke.
Deadpool and Wolverine is.
Is not. What is late
be.
style? What does late style mean to you? Many have said this. Many have pondered this. It's been a question on the lips of many for a long time. It's basically been the premise of our podcast. And yet, if you pinned us down in a corner and said, "Hey, what's late style?" you'd probably get a different answer from all three of us. You
If
know?
you pin me
Right.
down in a corner, I want to give you a little kiss, maybe.
Whoa.
Especially you, Hyatt.
Okay.
We're in a crazy mood right now.
I'm in a
in a
normal
good
mood.
mood.
I'm in a
Hyatt
steady,
might be
fine mood.
normal as hell.
Anyways,
Shit.
let's talk late style. To me, the main thing I think of when I think of late style in filmmakers is it's mainly, I mean, I guess almost obviously, but it goes to be said, is an auteur thing. And it's kind of the act to me of when you're making a movie, and especially when you're in a studio system, there's a lot of things, a lot of specific things need your attention, and there's things that need to be at a certain level of presentation for the movie to get through and to be released commercially. And I think late style, to me, is defined by the director going all in on their specific interests that they've shown over their career, oftentimes to the larger audience, to the detriment of the other more presentable aspects. So you are basically narrowing your focus and going more all in on your own specific interests and intricacies. And so you'll still see the heart of who they really are, which is what makes it interesting to me, because it feels like the most purely base version of who this filmmaker is, because they either don't have to or don't have the budget to put in the work everywhere else. And if they're going to make this movie, this is going to be a part of it. And so you can see almost way more bare on the surface why they wanted to make the movie and what the message of the movie is and what appealed to them about the movie and why you should care about the movie. It's fascinating because they're being reduced down to just the base parts. And that's not true of every case, especially in that, like, some people will continue to have the means to make whatever they want, and perhaps some of those things are still late style because they are able to focus in more on their things, not to the detriment. I have a couple examples of these. But, like,
Right.
you know, this is why I would consider the Star Wars prequels late style, you know.
Oh, I love that.
Why? Yeah, no. And I don't even really like
That's
those
so
movies,
exciting.
you know?
No. Hyatt, this is really. I mean, are you done? Do you mind if I?
You can
if
keep
I
going, yeah, you can. Whoop,
I really-
rotate.
really love that definition of late style. It's a very you way to define late style because it's very material and it's very specific to film more than anything else, right? It's specific to like the ways in which film gets produced, the ways in which a director must capitulate to producers and money men in order to have a film produced. I really like that. That's really exciting because my definition of late style, I've been thinking about this, is a little bit, not even a little bit. It's a lot more general. It's a lot more vague, and I think it's probably closer to what most people mean when they mean late style. Again, this is a very woolly, very tenuous term in the first place. But for me, it's a director who's close to the end, or an artist in general. But obviously, this is a film podcast, so we're speaking director. A director is close to the end of their life. And it is when death is a very present constant, or is a very present constant in a film, not necessarily as the violent threat of murder, for instance, so that is the case in most of these, but more so a quite literal death. Like, what does it mean to leave the world? What does it mean to leave behind? What do you leave? What is it that you do leave behind? And this constant presence of death as total annihilation, kind of at once elevates the film, right? To like this for me at least, like this very ecstatic, very moving thing, but at the same time kind of undermines it, right? So like there's I think in late style work, there is at once like a cynicism and a joy, right? I think a lot about how I've been thinking about late style lately is I keep returning to this quote of Scorsese's, which is funny because he's quoting somebody else. But Scorsese has this thing or this quote where after Flower Moon comes out, he says something like, after Kurosawa released Dreams, a film that, I haven't seen, but Scorsese goes, after Kurosawa released Dreams, he said something like, it's such a shame that I'm nearing the end of my life and it's taken me this long to finally understand what film can do. Scorsese goes, I never understood what he meant, but now, I'm starting to understand it. And I think like there's just, you guys are shaking your head. I thought that was a decent impression.
No, it was
But,
a
like,
good impression.
It
You
was
just
just that
said
it
one
trailed
sentence.
into it, like, yeah.
Yeah, you're right. But like, I think that's such an interesting phrase because there's like there's like a simultaneous joy and cynicism. There's a joy over the medium and its potential, but then there's also like a cynicism regarding the individual's ability to actually exploit that or express that medium to its fullest potential. So I would say that's how I define late style. And so for me, like classic late style work, Ferrari, right? I mean,
See,
shit.
that's funny,
The
'cause I would
Irishman.
say-
I think The Irishman is more evocative of late style than Flower Moon is, even though Flower Moon is like a perfect late style film.
By
The Return.
by my definition, I would say Black Cat is more late style than Ferrari, personally.
Interesting.
Let's have Jacob.
That's a
Yeah.
beautiful. I think that's lovely, Kobe. By the way, I really like that. I'm
Scorsese?
really I'm going to be thinking about that whenever I'm watching films that could be perhaps in contention for the label of late style. Definitely going to be thinking about that. I think my definition is probably, I don't think I could express it any clearer than Hyatt or more eloquently. I think Hyatt's definition is pretty much where I'm at, but
Right.
I think to go a little broader, like, I feel like that late style signals a kind of rebirth of a filmmaker's, passions, basically. And I think that when a filmmaker reaches their late stage career, they're closest to how they to when they started. I think that the middle of their career is like it's a kind of a return. Like, I think that they
Right.
become similarly experimental to typically how most filmmakers start out, maybe focused on certain thematic elements or things they care about. I mean, this is again to Hyatt's point, but yeah, it's definitely characterized to me by experimentation and a rebellion also. Like, I think that it's a very, like a young filmmaker, I think that late stage filmmakers are often rebellious in that they have often worked so thoroughly within a studio
Right.
system already that they are, one, probably tired of it, two, angry at it,
Right.
and the list goes on. So I think that when they reach their late stage, they become like punk.
So for you, 1517 to Paris is the
Yes,
is
that
the
shit is
quintessential-
punk, dude.
That is
Actually.
definitely a late style.
It is. It's definitely late style. I agree.
That
I
was
agree,
actually
but
going
I
to be
thought it'd
literally
be
my
punchline.
first one. So I'm gonna.
There you go.
So I
1517
do-
to Paris.
Well, no. So I mean, not my number one example, but I was going to. I was going to say we should. I part of what I want to do
Let's
is I
talk
want to
about
make
some
a
movies.
letterbox list that we can
Oh, I
point
love that.
to and be like, this is what we're talking about. You know what I'm saying?
And we should
Right.
probably choose films that are, most representative of. Like, we should probably choose a film per director.
I was thinking one or two, and that's
Yeah,
kind
one
of
or
part
two.
of the debate. Is like, can you have?
Because you want to
multiple
pick the
phases
mule
to a
also
late
for
style?
Clint.
Well, that's the question.
Right.
Part of
The
it
Mule is for me closer to late style than if we had to pick
Well,
one.
and that's
Clint.
part of it. Is I feel like they both are to some
Yeah.
extent.
But that's what's so interesting about Clint is he makes a fucking movie a year, right? So he's got like 30 examples of late
Yeah, it's
style.
true.
He's been about to die for 25 years.
Or Ridley.
Right.
So,
right.
so
Ridley's late style is he becomes fucking stupid.
Well, he was always.
No, look, guys. I mean, I guess the thing is, what you're saying is why I like Napoleon, so I can't really argue against.
I
it,
haven't
you know.
seen it. I bet I fuck with it. I mean,
Okay,
who knows?
so do we want to start throwing movies on the board up for discussion? Do
Yes,
we
I'd
want to? Do we
love
want to
to.
throw some softballs first?
I feel like a
Yes.
good softball for all of us here, especially because we discussed it Twixt.
Yeah, Twixt, yeah.
yeah, Twixt.
And the
Easy.
only question I had is Tetro versus Twixt. You haven't seen Tetro. Tetro.
I just think Twixt is a better-
Twixt is
Yeah.
probably fits both of our definitions
Right.
better. Or all
Okay,
three.
wait. Actually, before we get too deep in this, I do want to pose a question.
Yeah.
And
I'd
we've
love to
certainly
listen
touched
to
on
it.
this, and we, I mean, it's been almost over discussed, but like, is DV or digital like inherent to late style?
No, I don't think so.
Okay,
No, I don't think so either.
I think it's just the first thing to go.
sure.
For a
Yeah.
lot of people. So I don't
Gotcha.
think. we
Especially,
have to
I mean, especially because like a lot of the time, directors get up there in age, right? Maybe the last thing they want to do is fiddle around with like long days of working in film.
Well, the thing is, a lot of these people are older than.
But
they
also,
went through
again,
it
like,
all.
these
It's
are-
so easy.
These
and
are
that's why they
also
were obsessed
difficult
with it.
scripts. Sort of going back to Hyatt's thing, most of the times a late style film is a difficult script, and so you probably also want to keep the budget as constrained as possible.
Well, it just makes it.
And also at the same time, you're Michael Mann, and you're really good at directing. So it
Yes,
doesn't matter.
I mean, I think it's for a whole different number of reasons. I mean, I think in a lot of ways, it's like these people all lived through like having to like spare using film and stuff, and like not
Right.
doing certain takes because of the film they have. Like, I think it's like very liberating for them to be like, well, I can just do as much as I want and do whatever I want. I mean, again, to some detriment, perhaps. Like, these are kind of all these things we're talking about. It's kind of why I led with what I think is a weird example being like the Phantom Menace, but I also think it's one of the best examples in that everything that like people don't like about Late Style is evident because it's all weirdly on display in a massive budget movie that like no one was going to say no about to anyone. So it's like there's all these clashing aesthetics, there's all these effects that don't work. Attack of the Clones is like all in on digital in like an insane way. And it's like, it's like these movies were just going to make a bunch of money and George wants to make them so he gets to do whatever he wants, And it's like, it evokes that. So here's one that will kind of be a follow-up to that. Is Avatar The Way of Water Late Style?
Yes.
Yeah, it is.
I think so too. And I think it's because partially he's working his like he decided to make it an underwater movie because he's obsessed with going underwater, like he just got to do whatever he wanted, and he got this insane, he got to shoot it in high frame rate and he got to do everything he wanted, and like he's turning existing IP that he's created. It's why it's so much better than the first movie. He's turning it into what feels more tangibly like a passion project,
What's
there
difficult?
is sorry.
No,
you sure?
Yep.
Okay. So the book I finished reading today actually it's called On Late Style by Edward Said, and it's okay as a book. He wrote it. He didn't finish it before he died, which is funny because the book itself then constitutes Late Style in this weird way. But like in many ways, it's very obviously unfinished. But he sort of identifies in chapter 1 two distinct strains of Late Style, and he says that there's Shakespeare, right? And Shakespeare's whole thing was at the end of his life, he returns to the genres in which he found early success. So he does The Tempest and A Winter's Tale. These are just like two sort of religious / mystical comedies, basically. And they're Shakespeare doing Shakespeare. He does, it's like essentially like a victory lap. And then he goes, and then on the other hand, he holds up Beethoven as the example, who after, decades of producing, not consonant, but like accessible music for the bourgeoisie, Beethoven essentially just gets, he loses his hearing, begins dying, gets really angry and starts producing deeply experimental music. But because it's Beethoven, it's like this weird trick where he's producing this very aggressive music that sort of goes from idea to idea. It's very disjunctive, very discordant, but people still show up to the symphony because it's the new Beethoven piece. And I feel like when it comes to identifying Late Style, I mean, there's obviously, especially in film, like I feel like it's a little bit pat to say, well, you're either a Shakespeare, you're a Beethoven, especially because like I think The Fabelmans is kind of a little this, a little that,
I think
right?
A lot
but
of film
but I think that Avatar 2, exactly. I feel like Avatar 2 is, again, not necessarily returning to play the hits, but like by not indulging his tropes and his obsessions, but finding a way to finally express them the way he's probably meant them to be expressed for decades now. I do feel as if that sort of is a little bit more of like a consonance, for lack of a better phrase, like kind of Shakespearean Late Style. Is probably how I would think of or conceptualize The Way of Water.
I think maybe one of the issues that you could find with calling it Late Style is that it feels completely unrestricted, and like he's just the highest paid director like ever. It feels like he's working in this like studio system that is just feeding him all of the money that he like could possibly need.
Also kind of the same thing about Phantom Menace, though, where I think these guys have entered this phase where their Late Style gets to be this. I don't think it necessarily disqualifies it from being Late Style. You know what I'm saying? Like, I think it's like, I think that's I think by circumstance that's often a tenet of Late Style, but I don't think it is a rule of Late Style, I would say.
Right.
But I find that to be similarly, rebellious, where it's like, I'm going to take 10 years to make this movie, and you are going to deal with it. Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I'll put a Lucas on, but I'll put it on a little bit later because I don't want to put it on right after Way of the Water.
Right.
Inland Empire. I mean,
Yes, with the asterisk that you haven't seen The Return, but yeah, Inland Empire is like the beginning of, I would say, mature / late style Lynch.
part of it is, I think it is so much the culmination of what he's doing with all of his noir type. Like it's expanding so far past the like plots of Mulholland Drive. Like Lost Highway to Mulholland Drive to Inland Empire are kind of very similar movies where they just get less invested in plot further and further to the point where Inland Empire is like nearly indiscernible. He's filming things on the day. He's literally being like, at the end of the day, being like, tomorrow I need this, this, and this to his production assistant.
I
And
need
then
a monkey.
when he-
I
yeah.
need a
And then when
woman
he
without a
shows up-
leg.
Is Inland
Yeah.
Empire mumblecore?
No.
Yes.
Because it's
Oh,
too high.
yeah.
It's too high production.
It's terrible.
But there's like an insane. Even after I see
I've
The
changed my
Return,
mind.
I'll argue with you about this, but like it's unfiltered in the most insane way. Where I would imagine The Return, just by being a Twin Peaks thing, has more structure than Inland Empire, which is like so obtuse.
I mean, yeah,
But I
I'm
feel-
sure it objectively has more structure. Yeah.
I feel as if that almost dilutes the phrase late style a little bit to just say that it's old guys doing whatever they want.
Well, it's not. I don't think it's necessarily old guys doing whatever they want, but I do think it's I think it's specific to what their career was before. Where in terms of like Lynch's creative process, I do think this is like the ultimate end point of it is for it to be this like transcendental, meditated. I have found images in my brain that I am going to zap out onto a screen. I mean, I think a lot of other stuff is adding to it, but like, I think like. I don't want to spoil Inland Empire now, but like, there's a scene I love in Inland Empire that like is like, I mean, I can't say anymore, but
Okay.
I have not seen Inland Empire, listeners at home.
but like
I saw
I
it
would
really
I would
recently.
consider Mulholland Drive on to be Lynch's late style personally.
I would
Because
not consider Mulholland
Mulholland
Drive
Drive
to be
is the
late
point
style.
where it's him like. I think it's him entering his final creative phase where he's repurposing a TV show, adding stuff to it. The fact that part of it is a TV show and it's shot like a TV show, and then it's being counter added by the Lynchian like it's him doing Twin Peaks and then being like, but then I can go further. Like now I have to go into the psyche of these characters in a way that he then continues to do in a further way.
I feel like Mulholland Drive makes more sense as like the closing on the chapter. Like I mean, maybe it's both at one and the same time, but Mulholland Drive to me makes more sense as the culmination of the middle era, right?
No,
like
you might
especially
be right.
since his '80s was so defined by like wilderness, and then the '90s he finally gets like a strong. He's able to produce a film every few years. Like I think there's a big reason why he went 5 years between Mulholland Drive and Inland Empire, because no one would let him make Inland Empire. Like they at the end of the day they let him do Mulholland Drive as a film, and I just think that Inland Empire, I'm far more comfortable saying that that's the beginning of a late style rather than Mulholland Drive.
No,
Although
I'm fair
I'm
with
fine
that.
to blur it a bit.
The Return is
The Return
deceptive
is-
for me. Well, it's 100% is late style no matter what. Like,
Yeah.
For sure,
But
it's a great
it's
late style TV
deceptive.
show.
Hyatt is so malding right now, bro.
I can't put it
The
on this list of
Return-
movies.
It's fine. We can still talk about it, man.
No, I know. I'm
The-
just saying.
The Return is deceptive for me though, because it is it is so fucking digital that I'm just like, well, yeah, it's late style. Obviously, it's got to be so fucking late style because it's digital
Right.
as fuck,
Right.
and it's fucking weird.
Can I posit throw a movie out there that I'd be curious
Yes,
what you guys?
am I allowed to put
I
Inland
think-
Empire on the list?
Yeah, you're allowed to put Inland Empire on the list.
Hey, it's up to you
Yeah.
guys. I defer to your judgment.
Yeah, I'll let you put it on.
Okay, continue.
Just because I think we've had too many easy yeses, I want to throw one out there. Hi, I think I said this to you.
Let's do
All
that.
jazz.
See, I think Star 80 is. I think All That Jazz isn't. I think is the closest I could come to saying that.
Am I crazy? I didn't realize that. Are we saying just because he died, like, soon after?
Right.
No, well,
Yes.
again,
But he also
yes.
but he also dramatizes his own death. So it's like this
Right.
weird
He also
kind
is
of,
like aware he's
part
gonna
of it
die,
is I don't
basically.
Exactly.
I think for what I don't think it's.
because I don't
it
think
is a
Star
tough one.
80 is either.
The thing is, does Fosse have a long enough career to even like say that he has like
that's
the full
part
arc?
of it is it feels like he just doesn't have like because it's like
Right.
All That Jazz is about that. I mean, I guess it's like, are we including his like career, like his stage career too? Like, are we counting
Right.
like Chicago?
I see.
You know,
When
Yeah.
did he
It's
die?
like then-
Was he 40s or
Died in
50s?
82?
I think he was.
No, at what age?
Someone look it up. I'll keep talking.
45?
Oh, I mean, I think he's a little
50?
bit older than that. He definitely looked older.
He was
but
60.
also just
Yeah, he was
looked
60.
Okay.
I think it only is in like I think a better counter to that is Dreams, you know, where it has both like Akira Kurosawa, where it's like
Right.
it is
Right.
about this, but it also is like I think All That Jazz is kind of the crowning moment of his career, you know, but I don't know if it's
Right.
It's quite.
It's
I don't
like
know.
calling Night of the Hunter late style.
Yeah, I mean in a
Right,
in a-
or the box late style, like other.
Yeah, that's true. I mean,
Yeah.
I guess we can't put like Southland Tales on there because it's not late style, but that movie is crazy.
It's a late style feeling movie.
Well, that's but I mean this is sort of what gets fun is now we get back to a totemic text for this podcast, which is I feel like Southland Tales is just a blank check, right? Like, isn't that just early style blank check?
Well, yes, yeah.
This is a film that I haven't seen, also, which so keep that.
Yeah,
in mind.
let's just move on. Let's not talk
Real
about
quick,
Southland
while
Tales
we were
too
on Kurosawa, I mean, Ron feels like it would then be.
I think so. I mean, it's hard
I'm
to see. I haven't seen
comfortable putting
Dreams.
Ron on there.
Dreams kind of just does trump it. I think
It
For
does.
As a film or as a
is
late
Dreams
style?
about?
as late style, not as a film.
Right.
But
Um,
is Dreams about like?
Dreams is like I'm a man who's
War?
dying, and then this is like I need to get all these crazy things on screen, and it's like Martin Scorsese as Van Gogh walking through a Van Gogh painting, you know, it's like crazy. I mean, I'm also fine to put Ran on the list as a placeholder, but I do think Dreams is like a very obvious like text that hits a lot of what we're talking about.
It's hard
Well,
for me to
I
say
mean,
with any
why
of these
don't we
because I
do
have not
this?
seen like any
Yeah,
of the
yeah.
movies that we've talked about.
Why don't we do? Because you said one or two. Why don't we use this one as a two? Why don't we do
Okay,
Dreams
I'll
and
put
Ron?
both on because I think they do both
Yeah.
fit very thoroughly.
Also,
what
I
we're
mean,
talking
it
about.
is. I think
And it's also like a 5-year difference, right? In terms of
Yeah,
production.
well, and they're both addressing very different things.
right.
I think.
I see.
Within the same.
Well,
career.
that's what's interesting about like I mean, like Scorsese's next film, rumor has it, is the 80-minute film about Jesus in the 70s, right?
Oh,
Which is like, I mean, that's going to be so playful and fun compared to like his last two just fucking seismic,
Yeah.
soul-shattering films that he's released.
Uh,
And so,
I'm gonna-
like, I mean, that's
I'm
something
gonna
else to keep in
throw
mind. Is that
The
late style
Irishman
can
on the
also be
list.
goofy. Irishman is peak. I think.
I'm just gonna zoom through a couple
I-
of these obvious ones. Do you
Right.
disagree,
Go ahead.
Jack, or no?
Jack, do you
No.
disagree?
I think I 100% agree.
Okay, well this is a little bit more of a question. Song to song. I mean, this is a clear yes
it's
for me.
Easy
But
layup.
Kobe.
It's a question for you.
No, so this isn't a question for me, but
Oh yeah.
Is song that's interesting. That's really, you know what? I say go ahead and do it, but with an asterisk that I feel like his next Jesus film is going to be his true late style masterpiece.
I mean, I haven't seen.
Just because- that's
the
because-
one
but that's
Malick I
because
haven't
Song
seen
to
is the most
Song-
recent.
That's because it's really good. That's because Song to Song is like the culmination of the Tree of Life, and then the three swirly movies afterwards. So I'm definitely comfortable with that being like
Part of it
like
is
the
it's
late
the one
style
that's
something or
about
other. Like these are very
Texas.
autobiographical.
Yeah, it's the one that's about
Right.
Texas, which is kind of what makes
Right.
me feel the most like. I don't
It
know.
is funny that it can be that simple, but it is also like that is just true. Like it's objectively like
Yeah. Well,
surely
it's the
there was
riff on
something
Badlands.
compelling him to make this movie at Austin city limits.
Yeah.
What Paul?
Sure.
Schrader,
I feel like.
I think Card
just-
Counter. Well, is that just the easy one because we all like it a lot?
His next one is going to be the. Well, again, this is one of those things. Like Paul Schrader is like.
He's been in late
kinda like
style for
Be-
like 20 years.
He's like Beckett, right? Like I bet Affliction is technically the beginning of the Paul Schrader.
Yeah,
late
because it's
style,
like
right?
I'm sure Dying of the Light is late style.
Yeah. Oh yeah, dark.
But then it's like-
let's
I
do
have to see that fucking movie, man. The
let's do
road
the
trip.
card counter because it looks like a parking lot, right?
Yeah.
And,
No, I love that.
and I think that's like a really
Dude.
exciting late style choice.
Oh my god! That
I
movie
also
looks
think it's the
so awesome. It's
most
just so awesome.
obvious. I think it's the most obvious pickpocket. Like I think it's the most obvious Bresson he's doing
Right.
of them.
It's
That
also
makes
the-
it,
the
like,
most
it's coming to the
obvious-
surface.
Like he just keeps making Taxi Driver. I
Right.
guess that's the middle
Yeah.
Taxi Driver so far, but like.
Well, it's a riff on Rolling Thunder too. Like it's about like Rolling, which I mean this is I just
Motherfucker
watched
sees
this
this
over the
movie
weekend.
yesterday.
Yeah, I know. I just watched it over the weekend. But in Rolling Thunder, William DeVay, like whenever he goes to kill people, he hears the sounds of chanting Viet Cong as they're walking to torture him, and so the card counter becomes this sort of interesting obverse side to Rolling Thunder, where it's like, like the imperial threat, the imperial danger, but I don't know. I
Alright, we
kind of
should
forget
keep
where I'm
moving.
going with that. But
Clint Eastwood. What Clint Eastwoods do we want to put on? Are we cool
The
with
Mule.
15, 17, and the Mule? I think they should both be on.
Yeah.
yeah,
they
I'm okay
probably
with
should.
that. Not because I like 1517, although the way you talk about it makes me think I should rewatch it, but just because that is such like a late style thing to do, right?
Yeah.
Just to be like, I've
It's
done
like
it
a-
all. Let's
Yeah.
have these guys reproduce their own trauma.
What Cronenberg, potentially plural, do we want to put on?
I mean,
Crimes
I
of
feel
the
like
Future.
Crimes of the Future,
Crimes
the
makes
obvious
the most sense.
one.
Yeah.
Jack,
Crimes of the
have you
Future-
haven't seen Maps to the Stars?
No, but
That's
no,
the
I
other
don't.
one for me. Or I mean, I guess again,
Cosmopolis.
Cronenberg's late
might-
style is like Cosmopolis on. I mean, you could make an
Sure,
argument
yeah.
for Cosmopolis, Dangerous Method, Maps to the Stars, Crimes of the Future, all as a late stage. I think Crimes of
Yeah.
the Future probably is the easiest one to just be like, it's
Yeah.
that one. It kind of adds it all up. I do think Maps of the Stars is just interesting because it's the furthest he gets away from being the David Cronenberg people know from pop culture, while also being
Right.
like the most David Cronenberg he had been in a long time.
Right, right. I mean, what I love about that film too is that it like is his one that is most obviously set in a different place, and it's also the one that looks just so much like. I mean, it looks like my fucking street, right? Like it looks so Toronto, in a way that's quite funny, but also very Cronenberg, right? As his films always take place in these kind of non-places, but you watch them and you're like, why is Jeremy Irons and Nathan Phillips Square right now? It's a real Toronto head joke.
Bad Lieutenant, Port of Call, New Orleans.
I'm gonna say no. I don't think so. But here's the thing: is I have not seen
Fuck, man.
any
It's so
Herzog
tough.
films. I haven't seen any Herzog films past Port of Call, New Orleans. So I don't know if I'd be able to.
Certainly not any narrative features.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh,
thing
just to
is-
me-
my son, what have you done?
Oh, yeah. I mean, God, it does feel like it has to be a narrative film.
right.
Like, but does it? I don't know. I mean, because I guess he was doing both like very early on, right?
Yeah.
Shit, man. The thing is, I feel like Bad Lieutenant fits better because it's like a character study.
We could also just not have one on here for now.
But Herzog's a good one to try and parse.
I just don't think it's bad. I just don't think it's Bad Lieutenant. I think that there are like tons of tropes there for sure, but like I don't think that's. I mean, maybe I'm wrong. Tons of Herzogian tropes. That is not saying that the movie's like tropey or anything, but I mean,
Do you think
like maybe
that
I'm
Herzog?
wrong, but
Sorry, I'm sorry. To interrupt. Go ahead.
no, you're good. I was just gonna say I don't think that movie like labored to production, and I don't think it's like. Again, it sort of lacks, and again, this is why I'm embarrassed that I came up with a pretty ineffable definition of late style. But like, it lacks that obsession, but also reconciliation with death that I personally look for in late style. It's a very death haunted film, right? Because
the thing about that though is that Herzog was obsessed with mortality from the moment he started making movies.
I know, but there's just I think there's just like this manic energy to it that.
So I think
I don't know.
the four possible ones for Herzog are, and I don't know if you've seen all these, Kobe. Bad Lieutenant,
Probably haven't.
Rescue Dawn, My Son, What Have You Done, and Into the Abyss. I think those are the four that you can argue.
Into the Abyss
I
is
think
weird.
Into the
I think
Abyss.
Why
Encounters
is
at
that?
the End of the World. I think Into the Abyss is his documentary that has the least cinematic elements. I think it is just truly he wants to get this story out there. It's almost entirely just interviews with people.
Sure.
Yeah.
And it's kind of just ruminating on that. I think Encounters at the End of the World is also a potential one because by all accounts during Encounters at the End of the World, he literally was just like, yeah, this was supposed to be a more straightforward documentary, but then I just met a bunch of cool people and hung out with them instead.
Is that
I
the
like-
But if none of
Antarctica
those
one?
directly fit, that's the Antarctica one.
It's unfortunate neither of you have seen Cave of Forgotten Dreams because I might posit that one.
Right.
Mostly though because it's like it's almost an aberration, which maybe is inherently disqualifies it, but it's like it is so devoid of people because I mean it's a cave, but it is also focused heavily on mortality and stuff like and existence in
And
general.
in language, I presume, and the things that you say, do they persist throughout time and eternity? That sounds so late style.
Which, by the way,
I should've
that
seen
movie is unfucking believable. You guys should watch it.
Right. I remember Connor changed his major to anthropology one time because he watched Cave of Forgotten Dreams.
Dude, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Alright.
So do we want to put a Herzog on? I mean, do we have a...
I think maybe we just don't because
I
we
mean,
don't
I can
have
put Caves
one.
on. We don't have to all have seen it, you know. It could just be a placeholder. Because I think we all agree that there is something there, you know.
Throw
I
it on
think
there.
I think for me, again, here's the thing: is I haven't seen it, but the volcano one sounds like a really powerful,
Yeah.
almost summation of Herzog's career. Insofar as it's about people who just like got obsessed with the mystical, sublime power of like an image, right? And so did everything they could to go out there and capture the profundity of these images so that they could
That is
broadcast
true.
them to us. And I feel like that's such like when I think of the Herzog mythos, like that's what I return to is just and think about over and over again. It's just a guy who's just got like an eye for that kind of shit.
Man, that's a really good point actually. Because that movie is literally like it's not a response to the other one about those people, but it is like I am not talking about them. Like I'm not
Right.
Like if this is about, or I'm not talking about like their relationship. I'm not talking about even as much their obsession with volcanoes. I'm talking about them as filmmakers.
Right,
All
but
right,
then what's
I'll
so
put
funny
that
too
one
is
on the list,
is you think
I guess.
about exactly their obsession with you need to go into the heart of darkness to capture moving images, and then you think about
But honestly,
Fitzcarraldo,
maybe I
right? Like
just
that is
convinced
the
myself.
mythology to
I don't know.
Herzog.
Yeah, Herzog's really tough though. That's a very interesting one to talk about.
Right, that is a good one.
All right, I posit Black Hat.
So
I think it's Ferrari, but I'd be curious to
I
hear
don't-
Hyatt's argument.
One, Black Hat. Well, I just think Black Hat is like clearly the furthest aesthetically he's ever gone, which is just what
Right.
I'm more interested with this. Whereas Ferrari's
Right.
like too normal. I also think it has just like him doing the craziest shit he's ever done with the camera in his life. Has like the shot of where you die as Viola Davis. It has like the shot going through the fucking computer. It has like so much insane stuff.
Dude, Black Hat
where it's
fucking
like,
rules,
I
man.
don't know if Ferrari is like the Shakespeare version. Like it just like I don't think it hits as hard for me for what I view as a filmmaker's late style as personally.
It's
I don't-
interesting though that it's
No.
normal, or more normal. I mean,
Yeah,
for
the
sure.
Shakespeare version would be making a crime movie.
See, no, I
And
think
not because like my I know a lot of I have friends, I have my family members, my cousins think that movie's boring. I think Ferrari's
the
boring.
thing is, I
Like,
think he's just going back to an iteration of him. I mean, I guess it's not. He's going back to like his mid style, like he's doing like Insider and Ali again. But it's like Black Hat's kind of unrecognizable to like anything that he's ever
Right.
done. Where
you
it's
don't
like,
think
Right.
Ferrari is like Thief?
Not particularly. I think Ferrari's pretty similar to Insider and Ali is where I have it in my mind.
interesting.
I think Ali.
like
The thing
that.
is,
I think
I-
Ali
Well, it
is
uses
like
the Insider
one-to-one
score.
comparison.
I mean,
Yeah,
I would
yeah,
just
I'd
say
agree with you on
Miami
that.
Vice is my thing. I mean,
With Ferrari?
like what? No. I would just
Oh,
say
for
Miami
the
Vice
late
is
style.
the movie because it's Miami Vice. But
No,
I'll
but
also
that's-
I
just
will
think
say
he's
that a
just
big
doing
thing I
things
was
that are less accessible after that, and they're also more like singularly about the things that he was into.
I don't know, man. I think Miami Vice is his least accessible movie.
I think it's Black Hat by
But-
far.
But we also
mostly
keep in
'cause
that's
mind
just
late
the-
style as accessibility.
Sure.
Right.
Well, no,
like
for
Trash
sure.
Humpers
But
isn't late style.
part of it is Black Hat comes later, but I also think
For
again,
sure.
I'm
comfortable with Black Hat.
I'm coming with my projection of my description being like Black Hat is the example of him being like it doesn't fucking matter. Like I am doing the Michael Mann stuff that I want to do. I am doing the
Right.
camera stuff. I don't care to like make these set pieces more accessible or make more sense. It's about the fucking soy futures. It's about this weird shit. I'm gonna do whatever I want with like CGI. I'm gonna do whatever I want with like who I cast. There's gonna be like
Yeah.
the cast is gonna be like half Chinese actors, which is something I've already wanted to do clearly with Miami Vice. Like I think he's going more all in on like this is like the pure unadulterated aesthetic experience of what he's been working at his entire career, but like it like broke the dams,
Yeah.
I mean, hey, this
Okay,
might be a
you know
case
what?
where I'd be fine doing both, but
I'm comfortable doing both. I think, gun to my head, you maybe pick what the Michael Mann late style is. I would say Ferrari based how I've defined it, but again, I've got such an ineffable definition of what it is, and you did just really sell me on that. Especially because, and what's interesting about Michael Mann is that I feel as if my impulse here could be to turn around and say, well, then Black Hat is not late style; it's the culmination of the mature style, a la Lynch. But with Michael Mann, you get the sense with Black Hat that this is the movie he's been wanting to make since 1980.
part of it
Right.
is Public
And so
Enemy.
I am-
Public Enemies is the culmination. Public Enemies is taking it further, and then Black Hat's like breaking it. Black Hat's like
Right.
like fragmenting it, which is why I
Right,
argue
right.
it's late style. I think Public Enemies
Yeah,
is basically the furthest he could go with a traditional script, and then it's like, all right.
I see what you mean. Yeah, I'm comfortable doing either, or I'm comfortable doing both, I'd say.
Are you including Ferrari? Because I don't think that's in, man.
You don't think it?
I would
applies
say, you don't think it
I
applies?
don't know if that's not the one I would choose. Ferrari.
Right.
So do we want
So
to?
I straight up-
I'm closer to Black Hat or Miami Vice. Basically.
I straight up think the issue with Miami Vice, and this might sound ridiculous, is like I think he's too young for that to be late style. Like I think he's in his
I
60s
do kind of
when he
agree
makes
with that. Where part of it is just with the fact that he does Public Enemies and Black Hat also in that style afterwards, and those two are even more further with the technical side of the style. Like I think it does make it hard for me to say Miami Vice is the one, just because I think both Public Enemies and Black Hat supersede it as late style for me.
I think we should go Black Hat, but we have to recognize there's something interesting about what Ferrari is coming after Black Hat, and I mean there must be an influence, like a studio influence also. Like there has to be a,
See,
Black
I
Hat
do
made $8
think-
million.
Yeah. No, I do think, I mean, part of the argument for Ferrari, I do think it is like, well, it is almost like a different, part of it is it'll be interesting if he makes Heat 2, because then it will almost recontextualize what Ferrari
Yeah,
is.
then that
Right.
Because it'll be like, it's almost like him re-transitioning into a studio director,
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, let's move on.
All right, let's do Black Hat though for men.
All right.
Is that okay, or should we just not?
We're at an hour 45. Should we just do like one more, two more?
I think
or...
we should do lightning round. I think we need to
Okay.
get all of the obvious ones on
Okay.
because we haven't done them all.
Okay.
Sure.
All right.
And I guess not all of these are going to be direct obvious, but do we think Unstoppable, Tony Scott's Unstoppable, is late style?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, that was the one I was gonna pick.
Okay, I have, because I think these are two that belong on the list that I don't think either of you guys have seen either. I have Passion as my Brian De Palma pick.
Sure.
Because it's
Never seen
like
it.
it's him doing it's kind of my argument for Black Hat, where it's a digitally shot lurid sex thriller that like is him kind of just playing echoes of his 80s career. I also really would
Right.
like to add Abbas Kiarostami's Like Someone in Love, which neither of you guys have seen, but it is his last film before he died, and I think it is
Right.
very much emblematic of late style in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
Hands off,
Oh,
bro.
push
Go
it.
ahead.
Mad Max Fury Road. Is
Easy.
Mad Max Fury Road late style?
Easy.
3,000 Years of Longing is, I think, a little bit closer to late style
good,
than
man.
Fury Road is. Because 3,000 Years of Longing is more
You being
reflective
serious?
on the... Yeah. 3,000 Years of Longing is more reflective on the medium. And I think that like... Look, I'm not
Dude,
going to
he
sit here and
went
deny
back
that...
and made Mad Max fucking 30
The
years
thing
later.
is,
I'm not going to deny
yes.
that Fury Road is late style, but I am going to say 3,000 Years of Longing is more late style. I think it's because it incorporates that sort of self-reflection, that self-interrogation on the medium, on what it is to be a creative, on what it is to be a storyteller, etc.
I think Kobe can sway me with that, and also Furiosa does kind of just like change
Dude,
this.
that's gonna blow it wide open.
So, I'm down.
I think we
with-
should table this for now.
Well, it sounds
Or
like
put
Hyatt
3,000 Years of
got
I'm
Longing.
down
Hyatt,
to put
man.
3,000 on, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, let's do 3,000. Like
that's
I don't like, again, because then it becomes this thing where it's like, okay, well, it's an old guy returning to his old franchise. Like, does that necessarily make it?
Sure.
Okay,
Like-
well,
like if-
here's let's double back on that real quick. Matrix Resurrections.
No, because they're not old enough.
Whoa.
See,
that's
I
a
think
weird
this is a
take.
yes, but I'm.
This
fine with
whole
not putting it
being
on the
old
list.
enough thing is. I mean, I know, Kobe, that it is. The
You need
crux
to have
of your
dad. You
argument.
need to have
Yeah.
dad.
Part of it is I feel like Matrix Resurrections is like. I mean, again, I'm fine not putting it on there, but I do think it kind of does encapsulate all of this because that movie's basically like I think it explains a reflection on mortality by being like, oh, this movie was actually like this whole series was actually just about the love between these two, and it's like,
Right.
and it's like no one would have that take except for someone who's like had a family, because like no one like watches the original Matrix movies and is like, this is the take, and then like
Right,
it comes
right.
back to this and it's like actually this is about how they're just like people, and like I do
Right.
think there's something there.
So, Kobe,
I don't know.
just
I
real
think it's a
quick,
bold, mature film, but I don't think it. I just. To me,
fine.
it's not light style.
So, Kobe, just real quick, do you like not even want to touch like Fincher?
Fincher hasn't had his late style yet. No, and if he has, The Killer
I
is.
think he has
is
had his
maybe
late style
barely
early.
the beginning of it. That's not how it
Part
works,
of it
though.
is that it would be hard to say
That's
that.
how it works for me, baby. Yeah, Zodiac is his late style masterpiece.
Boy and the Heron.
Easy.
Yeah. Oh, easy.
100%.
Easy. Actually, maybe the most concise definition
Yeah.
of what I would consider late style.
Okay,
would
we'll
be.
get into a
I
couple
think
tougher
the
ones.
only thing is visually is like it's more concurrent, but
Eyes Wide Shut.
No.
Yes. Yes.
I think I'm gonna say Eyes Wide Shut is enough of a middle ground to me that I don't want to put it on the list right now, and only because I don't know exactly where it would quite fall aesthetically and thematically that gets it that much further from Stanley Kubrick's other work, other than it is another Stanley Kubrick movie. I don't know if Kubrick ever actually defined what his, or like it still has all the
maybe you're
tenets
right.
of his movies in a way that like it feels like he just died before he got to what his late style would be.
Yeah, you're right. I think you're right.
Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
Oh,
This was what I was
Jesus.
thinking. Yeah. Yeah, I feel pretty strongly that this one is, because not only is it a genre movie, it is like 15 genre movies. Like, and it's like 15 genre movies in not a movie. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, I'll go. Yeah, I'll say. I mean, especially. I mean, it depends, right? This might change. Like, if Tarantino doesn't stick to his 10 movie thing, maybe this changes in 20 years, and I reconsider this.
Yeah.
But right now, if he's being honest about his 10 movie thing, then yeah, I think this is late style.
Okay, this one's for you, Jack. Days, the Tsai Ming-ling movie.
I don't know honestly if I've seen enough to feel comfortable saying it. I mean, if the comparison is just to Goodbye Dragon Inn, then
And The Hole.
and the whole.
You haven't seen any others.
Yeah, I don't know.
I mean, Days
I
is
don't
40
want to touch.
shots.
What'd you say?
I said Days is 40 shots.
Well, sure, but I mean,
I don't know. I guess that's
I haven't
not
seen
quite
like
an
I haven't
argument.
seen like Rebels of the Neon God or whatever. Like, you know. Wait, is
Yeah,
that-
yeah.
that's right. Yeah. So yeah, I don't even want to say. I feel like I've only seen the stuff that basically is the same.
I guess it's hard to put a Soderbergh on now just because we know it's gonna
Dude, but
keep
we
going.
have to, man. Oh, it
Yeah,
feels
what
so
do we-
wrong
what
not
do we
to.
put on?
Dude,
He's just
the
not
one
late
I
style
have
yet.
on my list, and this is I don't think it
Probably
really
Magic
works
Mike
for
3?
this list. No, is Contagion.
I have
But
High
I
Flying
just-
Bird, but that's just purely
High Flying Bird
aesthetically.
makes
High
sense
Flying
too.
Bird's fun. Yeah.
The reason I put Contagion, and this isn't really what this list is, but I might as well talk about it, is just like his whole thing changed after he made Che. Like that was his like breaking point, you know. And then he went back, or he didn't. He just started making like genre movies, and Contagion was the first one, where like he was like, I'm not really gonna try to have, you know, I don't have these lofty ambitions anymore because I'm just like scared of what might happen.
I think that's a fair point. I think Soderbergh does just fall in that category of like, we can kind of not put one on because we know there's going to be 10 more Soderbergh movies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's
But
just like-
also, strangely, is Soderbergh's like cortex as a filmmaker is it in that 5-year run after Sex Lies and Videotape.
yeah, that is like his lowest point.
And but is that his nexus as a film, as like in his interests also? Like, do we have to
Yeah,
have
I
seen
don't-
Kafka and Schizopolis and shit?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think, again, the Soderbergh, just because, again, he becomes so obsessed with this production style that, like, it almost goes beyond late style. He almost has a phase that is outside of this because it's like, it
Yeah.
doesn't fit in this narrow definition.
All we can say is that his phase he's in right now is very defined and very
Yeah, oh, for sure.
interesting.
All right, I've got a couple more, but I think we can kind of wrap up, and I'll maybe even add a few more after. I'll set in a couple. Old.
No.
Go ahead, man.
Did you say yes
Sure.
or no, Kobe?
No.
Okay, Kobe says no.
Oh, he says
Dude,
no.
he's not old enough.
The movie's called Old.
No.
Um,
That's the beginning of, or that's the mature era.
I think one that is a slam dunk is L.
Yeah, I
Verhoeven.
agree with that. I'm gonna put that on
Just
the
because
list,
Kobe, if I mean
Yeah,
L is
fuck
like
outta here.
reckoning with
Never
his-
seen it. Never seen it, but I'm sure that it is.
Yeah, it's just like literally.
I'll just
I-
read a couple more.
I'm horrible.
Oh yeah, sorry. I'll read a couple more that I have on here that I don't think will make the list. I do want to put one of the Star Wars prequels on the list. Do you guys care if it's one or two?
I like Phantom Menace. I think better.
Okay,
A little bit
I
better
agree
for
with
that.
Oh, I am gonna put Hanagatami on the list real quick, just because that's a slam dunk. That's the dude who made Hausu, and it's literally like about the atomic bomb going off, and it's shot on like a YouTube green screen.
Boom, slam dunk.
So a couple that I think could or would make the list, but like I aren't really, like I'm not huge to argue for them. Allied, some Zemeckis Slate style.
Love that.
Gemini Man.
Oh yeah, I think an Ang Lee has to go in actually. Yeah.
Kobe's gonna say he's not old enough.
I haven't seen. No. I think Gemini Man totally fits because that is again, like it's not just having like kind of weird like formal tics and tropes. It's like the Michael Mann thing of like you need to take it as far as it fucking can go and then break it. And I feel like Gemini Man qualifies for me for that. He's old enough.
A couple that see, I feel like we're gonna have to check the ages. Is he that much older than Shyamalan? I guess he might be.
I actually just was convinced I don't want Gemini Man on there because
Yeah, Ang Lee
similar
is
to
70.
Soderbergh, he's currently in the throes of an
Shyamalan's
obsession.
50.
I don't know if we're gonna make. I don't know how many more movies he's gonna make. Honestly, I really don't. Maybe he's got one in the pipeline, but
Dude, and we can just fucking pray that we can see this shit in IMAX high frame rate.
Ambulance.
Oh
and
yeah,
LA
baby.
Ants. But again,
Oh
I
yeah.
think that's,
Wait, how
you
old
could
is
say- No, again,
Michael Bay?
I think that one probably doesn't qualify, honestly, but it's very close.
Yeah.
I don't know. Again, another guy that it's like, do we touch this yet? Abel Ferrara. It's just you don't know when he's gonna stop, you know.
Yeah.
And like,
But I feel-
it's hard to pick which one is the one, you know.
I feel like the one I haven't seen this right, so keep this entire thing in mind. But it would probably be Pasolini, right?
I don't know. I mean, I don't know. We'd have to, you know, we can't
Right.
put one on the list that we haven't, that none of us have seen.
Okay.
Nakoi Katsi is one I always think of. I had a couple.
I don't know.
I mean, we could probably put an autumn afternoon on there pretty easily. A late Ozu.
Yeah. Love that.
Again, Claire Denis. It's like it doesn't. It feels like we're close, but I don't know if we're quite there yet.
Right. Hyatt, I watch Trouble Every Day.
I saw.
See that?
That was very exciting.
Yeah.
Man, I have to see
loved it.
it.
Is there any of those that I should put on? I mean, should we try to get a Zemeckis on real quick? Or again, I don't know which one is the one. It might be this new one. It might be the one that he's making right now.
Because they're bad.
Yeah.
I mean, frankly, like probably like if I had to pick a Zemeckis, it would probably be Pinocchio, right? Like I can't think like
Well,
that's
yeah,
that's a
but I
pretty
can't-
good summation of that guy's like last
don't say
40
that,
years
man.
of his life. And Zemeckis is a director that I love from like 1980 to what 2000. He's basically untouchable. What about Flight? Like, is that even light style? I haven't seen it. I don't know.
I think it's probably late style, but honestly, I don't know if I can like speak on Zemeckis like that.
Hyatt stars at noon as the resident Claire Denis person. I'm kind of
I love
surprised.
Stars at
I would have
Noon.
presumed
I just
that
don't
you
know
would
if
have.
it's late style. I just think she's still going. Like
Right.
it's kind
Stars
of
at Noon is also pretty similar to like a lot of the things.
yeah.
that, you know.
It's obfuscated, but it's like her movies have always been obfuscated. You know, so it's kind of like
Yeah,
that argument
yeah.
of like this is just kind of what she's always been doing. So it's
Right.
No, we've got a list of movies.
We got some bangers.
Should I read the list
Bro.
real quick or no?
Yeah, hit him.
Twixt,
Yeah, do it.
Avatar 2, Inland Empire, Ron, Dreams, Irishman, Song to Song, Card Counter, Mule, 1517 to Paris, Crimes of the Future, Fire Within, Black Hat, Unstoppable, Passion, Like Someone in Love, 3,000 Years of Logging, Boy and the Heron, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, L, Hanagatami, Gemini Man. Should I take Gemini Man off? Did we decide?
Yeah, I think
That's
you
on
should
you
take it
guys.
off.
Okay, I'll take it off. An Autumn Afternoon and Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace. How we feel about that?
Okay.
One. I feel good, and Unstoppable's the right choice for Tony, but the one that I was thinking of was Deja Vu, and it's really kind of a stupid reason, but I do think it's like amazing that Scott took this like kind of bastion of like grounded, natural, maybe even like working class adjacent like Denzel, and made like a sci-fi movie.
That you almost
That's
don't
so
know is
cool.
going to be, no, I think that's
Exactly.
a very astute point. But I almost think again that's like yeah.
I mean, I don't know if that has anything really to do with the definition that we've laid
Kind
out,
of
but I
come to.
do think that that's such an awesome entry into his like Denzel,
Oh,
shit.
Beach Bum was another one, but again, I think Aggro Drift will just trump that. So,
Yeah. That's
all right,
true.
I think I'm running out of steam. I think this.
I
was a
got
good
one more
time.
thing,
too.
man.
Oh yeah.
I got one more thing.
I
You guys
got a piece so bad, Jack.
All right.
Hit me. Hit
You
me
know
with
what?
the one
Never
But
mind.
just say it
I'm
really
gonna-
fast.
no,
Just
no,
say
no,
it really
no.
fast.
No, I'm gonna save it for next pod.
Okay.
Are you sure?
We're
Yep.
logging off.
Yes.
All right.
Peace.
Bye-bye.
Bye.